Good
Zanele. Morning, morning.
Good morning, members, honorable members. We're waiting for the chair to connect. She's got a bit of a network challenge, but I think she'll be connected very soon.
This was
okay. Thanks.
the ANC winning the 2014
thank you.
general elections. Newsroom Africa's Dumal Cloudy has been following the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. He filed this report,
confirming that he knew of his pending appointment to the helm of SARS a year before former President Jacob Zuma had led the ANC to victory in the 2014 general elections.
Mangoroto.
Vala mic yakho.
Okay, thanks, ma'am.
2013.
Morning, Chair.
Good morning, Whip.
Okay, I indicated to members that you join us. We're struggling with the network. Now that you are here, we can start.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Whip. Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, DM, DG, and all other departmental reps and everyone else in this meeting. We're
Good morning, Chair.
Morning, Chair.
My apologies, I've got a network problem. I don't know if, again, I'm still going to face that challenge. If it comes to a push that maybe I'm kicked out again, I will ask the Honorable Whip.
Recording in progress.
Honorable Nkomo to proceed with my meeting. But let's hope nothing is going to happen from now onwards. We are meeting here today, invited the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disability to come and brief us. Before we receive the briefing by the department, there is an agenda flagged on our gadget. I think everyone is in a position to see it. Can we get anyone to adopt the agenda that we're going to follow as our program today? Thank you.
Chair, my name is Honorable Anna Gela. I move for the adoption of the agenda.
Honorable Gela, thank you very much.
Chair, my name is Makosi Ntuli. I second the adoption of the agenda.
You are so progressive. Thank you very much for adopting and seconding the agenda. Honorable members, we're going to be guided by this agenda moving forward. You are all welcome. We also welcome the department to come and brief us today on the gender responsive planning, monitoring, evaluation, and auditing framework as one of our focus areas that we agreed upon to follow this term. Honorable members, I do believe that in our midst, we do have the Deputy Minister. The Minister has apologized. She won't be able to be with us in this meeting today. So the Deputy Minister will be leading the department. Before I give the opportunity to the Deputy Minister, let me check with the Secretary of the Caucus if we do have any other apologies. Mandy?
Yes, Chair. Good morning, Chair and members. We received 15 apologies. Those apologies are from Minister Nkwana Mashabane, Ms. Kekana, Ms. Bibi, Ms. Siwia, Ms. Sharif, Mahlengwa, Mr. Diza, Ms. Breed, Ms. Boshoff, Ms. Chwete, Ms. van der Merwe, Ms. Sherwa, Ms. Trapa, Ms. Lamini, and Ms. Mafu.
Thank you very much, Mandy. Honorable members, we did receive 15 apologies. Do we accept them?
Through you, Chair, we do. I propose that we accept, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Siminya. We're proceeding with our meeting now. GM, you are welcome in our meeting. And thank you very much. You were also present in our steering committee meeting. You are welcome to lead the department. I just believe that maybe you'll have the opening statement before we hand it over to the DG to brief us with today's agenda. Thank you very much. Over to you, DM.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Good morning, honorable members. I will ask that the department maybe takes off their presentation and they will put it on after I have presented. It creates a confusion. It reads differently from what I'm saying. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, it really, we want to express our appreciation to give us an opportunity to provide progress made with regard to the implementation of the gender responsive planning, budgeting, monitoring, evaluation, and auditing framework to this important committee, the Multi-Party Women's Caucus. Just to give a background, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, 25 years into democracy, we as government departments and entities must reflect on the journey we've traveled in terms of gender equality. Although great strides have been made in terms of implementing the gender responsive planning, budgeting, monitoring, and evaluation framework, more still needs to be done in terms of closing the gap in institutionalization and full implementation of the framework at government departments and related entities. And I think our Director General will help us to have a clear understanding of those gaps that needs to be closed. We acknowledge progress in a number of areas, including improvement in the position of women in society, political representation in education, in health, to name a few, which are great milestones. It is also encouraging that during the State of the Nation address in February, the president of our country, President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, indicated that the economic empowerment of women will be prioritized, was talking about this administration through the 40% of the government procurement set aside for women-owned businesses and enterprises, which was a big gain for women. With reference to the implementation of this framework, just briefly, the following progress has been made. The progress made with regard to gender responsive planning and monitoring has been within the medium-term strategic framework 2019 to 2024 as the country frameworks that guide planning and implementation. The MTSF 2019 to 24's responsiveness to the priorities of women, youth, and persons with disability has been demonstrated with the cross-cutting indicators for women, youth, and persons with disabilities. The key indicator in priority 1 focuses on measuring the level of institutionalization of the gender, youth, and disability responsive planning budgeting. The framework contributed immensely on the responsiveness of the MTSF to women, youth, and persons with disabilities, although it was not yet adopted by then. The country gender indicator framework as a backbone of this planning framework strengthens government's ability to plan for and measure progress towards gender equality and the empowerment of women. Indicators and targets within the CGIF lay basis for gender responsive planning and budgeting, where the allocations of resources and implementation thereof moves the country towards the achievement of priorities that include transformed, representative, and inclusive economy, which prioritizes women, youth, and persons with disabilities towards enjoyment of good quality health and better life opportunities. The department is currently presenting the CGIF through the government cluster system to support its implementation and reporting. It is envisaged that this advocacy will result in better reporting by department of disaggregated data by sex, age, and disability. Honorable members will recall that even when the statistician of the country report, sometimes they always say they don't have data which helps to see beneficiation in terms of sex, age, and disability. The implementation of the gender responsive institutional planning pillar has been positively influenced by the development of the guidelines on assessment of draft strategic plans and annual performance plans for the responsiveness to the priorities of women, youth, and persons with disabilities. These guidelines are a package that is circulated to entire government through the DPME. The 2021-22 annual performance plans are gradually moving from gender, youth, and disability blind to targeted state. The framework implementation on gender responsive evaluation, knowledge, and evidence has been the development of a gender responsive national evaluation guidelines, integrity, the gender perspective across the evaluation cycle. Among the programs implemented by the department this financial year, a formative evaluation on the implementation of the framework is underway. The purpose of evaluation is to assess progress and enhance knowledge that contribute towards the improved design and determine effectiveness and relevance of implementation. The development of a gender knowledge hub initiated by the department with a view to have a central repository for gender, youth, and persons and disability information for the country. A theory of change workshop and a report are available for the knowledge hub. Working with the National Treasury on gender responsive budgeting, the 2020 MTF guidelines for the first time included these three: gender, youth, and disability tagging. The intention being to determine how much is currently being planned on gender tagging process of the 18 selected department. With regard to the implementation of the framework on other related systems, including cabinet and parliamentary systems, it will be appreciated if the portfolio committees and other parliamentary structures may assist in ensuring that all departments are called to account to the responsiveness of their plans and budget for the priorities of gender, youth, and disabilities. The department analyzed the performance agreement of ministers signed with the president as part of the implementation of gender responsive performance management. There is a high level of the responsiveness of these PAs to the priorities of gender, youth, and disabilities. The department has a role to ensure that the performance appraisals are implemented according to better results. Communication, advocacy, and training play an important role in capacity building and institutionalization of a gender, youth, and disability responsive public service. The training is offered by the National School of Government. The department worked with the National School of Government to develop the accredited module for the training on gender responsive planning and budgeting. The National School of Government has hosted 8 virtual training sessions, the 2021 financial year on gender responsive budgeting. The department hosts meetings with national and provincial governments as a platform for progress tracking against the implementation plan for the framework, learning and sharing of best practices on the implementation of the framework, as well as strengthening a community of practice. Best practices shared on gender responsive budgeting during these meetings were provided by UN Women, Amatole District, and Gauteng Province Commission on Gender Equality and National Planning Commission, among others. Provinces and national departments invite the department for technical support during their strategic planning and session. The presentation by the department will detail on these meetings, as well as which departments and provinces has received the capacity building. This framework entails mainstreaming gender in government planning processes through gender responsive planning, budgeting, monitoring, evaluation, and auditing systems. The department plays an important role in the mainstreaming of gender, youth, and issues affecting persons with disabilities. And our focus continues to be on intersectionality, as other factors such as geographical location, race, adds complexities to challenges faced by women, youth, and persons with disabilities. Further, women, youth, and persons with disabilities have been adversely affected by the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. In conclusion, although the department has a central role to regulate the promotion of women empowerment and gender equality, youth development, and promotion of the rights of persons with disabilities, every public institution must take responsibility in mainstreaming and institutionalizing priorities and rights to improve outcomes and outputs. Honorable members, our Director General will also talk to capacity issues of the department, the challenges which we do believe as our administration led by the Director General is repositioning the department, will get full support and backing for Parliament so that all the plans, legislation, priorities are realized with a reasonable capacity. I thank you.
Thank you very much, DM, for your detailed opening statement on the journey you traveled as a department on gender responsive budgeting, monitoring, evaluation, and auditing framework. I'll now call upon the DG of the department, Ms. Nekateko Maluleke, to lead us. DG.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, honorable members, Honorable Deputy Minister.
My apologies, DG. Can you switch on your video?
Yes.
And everyone else who's going to talk, please, let's make sure that we switch on our videos. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You may proceed.
Thank you. I was still greeting all the honorable members and the Deputy Minister and my colleagues here. Thank you. As I'll take from where the Deputy Minister left, as she indicated that I will talk to the structure of the department. This is not just complaining, this is the reality. When you look at the mandate of our department is responsible for regulating, monitoring, evaluating the socio-economic empowerment of women, youth, and persons with disabilities in government, in private sector, and even with civil society. We are expected to liaise, coordinate, and monitor on issues of gender-based violence, but liaise with civil society organization. You compare us with the DPME, it focuses on planning and monitoring in government only. However, their structure, we are 1/3 of the structure of their structure, and yet their mandate is 1/3 of ours. The resources that they get, our resources are 1/3 or even less than what they get. So it's important that the committees assist us to be able to function, because what I always say is that we are structured and resourced to fail. So if you are structured and resourced to fail, there's no way you can succeed. You always fail because that's how you are structured. However, as a department, we don't focus on the fact that we're not appropriately structured. I just want to make an example that on the 21st of May, we had a meeting with National Treasury for the first time. In that meeting, we had, I think, about 10 officials from the National Treasury and 4 or 5 DDGs, where we were talking to them about integrating gender responsive planning, budgeting, monitoring, and evaluation framework in their process of budgeting or of request of budget, so that if the National Treasury is also on board, all government departments will comply, because the National Treasury has a carrot and a stick. You comply, they give you the money. You don't comply, you're not going to get a budget, or your budget is going to be reduced. So that's the other strategy that we're using. And also on the 24th of May, that is Monday, this Monday, we had a meeting with National Treasury, IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the EU, and the National School of Government, to discuss how we take the process of capacitating government officials on implementing and integrating the gender responsive planning, budgeting, monitoring, evaluation, and auditing framework. And we think this will really bear fruits, because the IMF will start the assessment in June, so between June and August. And then the training, they said they will roll out the training over a period of 2 years. So we believe that South Africa will be one of the countries where we'll top in the globe in terms of mainstreaming, after they've assisted us to be able to capacitate government departments. However, also as a department, we've requested funding from the EU, so that we can be able to place 4 people per province, as indicated by the Deputy Minister, that we are just at national, we do not have provincial presence. In the provinces, there's a program called the OSW. The OSW is just a program, it's not a department, it's not a unit that is extending the reach of the department. They focus on the program within the Premier's office. So it makes it difficult for us as a department to monitor even the local government, because implementation should happen at local government. And that's where the challenge is, that's where service delivery is lacking. And the GRPB will then assist or capacitate municipalities to be able to achieve. So the funding that we've requested, we will be able to place 4 people per province. So 2 will focus on GRPB MEA, and 2 will focus on the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence, so that they're able to work with municipalities to be able to mainstream that. But also the other thing, the Deputy Minister in her presentation, she spoke about that the department is in the process of developing a knowledge management system. The knowledge management system is developed with the assistance of the University of Johannesburg. However, the department still needs a monitoring and evaluation system in order for it to be able to monitor at the same time consistently every province, every municipality being able to put their information into that system. However, due to financial constraints, as opposed to DPME already has many different systems. We are not able to procure that system. However, we are pursuing it so that we can be able to pursue. As a department, Langwani, who will be presenting our presentation assistance here, will show that as a department, we've participated in different strategic workshops of government departments in order for us to influence their strategies. However, the challenge remains that when they develop their APPs, we are no longer involved. It's a private process. It's not private, it's a process that they do in their departments. So our involvement comes in when we assess the APP. So if they've left out to integrate women, youth, and persons with disabilities, it becomes a challenge now because you are reacting rather than being able to influence them. Therefore, hence the Deputy Minister in a presentation, she indicated that we are a regulatory department. We have changed our mandate. We are no longer just a facilitating and coordinating, because facilitating and coordinating, you do not have authority to facilitate and coordinate what exists. Now we are a regulator. We regulate the socioeconomic empowerment of women, youth, and persons with disabilities. This gives us an opportunity to be able to write policy that would guide government in terms of how they mainstream women, youth, and persons with disabilities over and above the legislation that will then require both government and private sector to be able to implement this. I would like to hand over to Langwani for Langwani to do a proper presentation. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, DG of a regulatory department. Thank you very much. Ms. Langwani, you may take over.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and honorables that are present in the meeting, the DM, the DG, and colleagues. I will ask to have control on the presentation. If you cannot offer that to me, I can fly my presentation. That will make it very comfortable for me to present. Am I offered that?
Mandy?
Yes, Chair, we are busy doing that now.
Okay.
Thank you. As they do that, I can as well start. Hope you are going to offer me the control or allow me to fly it. I need to understand the two.
Yes, ma'am, we've made you co-host now.
Okay. Thank you. I will fly my presentation. Thank you. I'm going to make a presentation on the implementation of the Gender Responsive Planning, Budgeting, Monitoring, and Auditing Framework, which I will continue to call it the framework as I make a presentation going forward, to avoid talking on this long name. Following the advances in the first phase of democracy, gender policy planning and budgeting, more recently, South Africa has experienced gender mainstreaming regression. There has been poor accountability on women's empowerment and gender equality performance across the state sector. Key women empowerment and gender policies and systems became outdated. There's weak institutionalization of gender mainstreaming in the system. lack of coherence, gender responsive policy research, planning, budgeting, monitoring, and evaluation and gender auditing policies program in the system has been identified, with many policies that are gender blind or gender silent. The framework was approved by Cabinet on the 27th of March 2019 for implementation across the country with the following key strategic objectives: to serve as a catalyst to effect system-wide paradigm shift towards gender mainstreaming across the state, meaning that each and everyone, whether you are in private or public sector, you need to change to be to gender mainstream in all what you are doing. To ensure women's empowerment are at the center of public policy, priority, results-based planning, budgeting, and accountability. That with the implementation of the framework, all policies, when you develop a policy, you need to remember that it must mainstream women. To ensure that allocation of adequate and equitable resources for women's empowerment and gender equality is linked to broader public finance reform. To enhance the country's overall levels of inclusive growth, development, and the broader political and socio-economic transformation agenda. To contribute towards achievement of our constitutional vision of non-sexist society and gender equality. The overall approach for the framework is to ensure that women empowerment and gender equality is not only a social sector issue, but cuts across all sectors and desired outcome, especially economic empowerment and political participation. Because what was noticed was that the issue of gender was a sector, gender issues. It was not regarded in all other sectors. They aim to ensure country government-wide planning and budgeting processes to promote stronger institutional accountability to gender equity. Commitment include the need for comprehensive and integrated approach, the need for gender responsive policies and programs at national, sectoral, and local level, the gender responsive institution and system of public administration, the gender responsive financing, which is transparent and adequate. The approach and the strategy for the successful implementation include a pragmatic approach, which is multi-pronged, short to medium term, and then long term, where also there's mainstreaming of the gender within the existing national planning, monitoring, and evaluation system, meaning that there will be no system that will be standing alone without the issue of mainstreaming women. Mainstreaming gender within existing budget system, procedure, and performance-based budgeting initiatives. Then development of the country gender indicator framework, which is linked to the normative framework. We gave example of the SDG to the program performance, meaning that it is linked to all other frameworks or all other mechanisms that are in place. Accessing multiple evidence and data sources, including government, civil society, and academic. WIGI intervention and program based on a diagnostic and a desired outcome for women, meaning that we look at what are the existing problems at the moment. Piloting of different contexts to test both conceptual and implementation theory. The achievement of country gender outcomes require that we cannot, if we don't consider the following, achieving the gender outcomes. Setting of clear gender responsive policy priorities across government based on diagnostic and needs assessment. We cannot set any policy outside the needs. We need to identify what the citizens' problems are and set agenda based on that. Translating policy priorities into programs with clear programs outcome, we need to understand that we need to reach out for the women out there. So the outcomes must be targeted to women with gender responsive indicators and targets. And then with a targeted intervention, mainstreamed intervention. A targeted intervention will be looking at what are the areas that has been diagnosed as an area for need. So the intervention will target in addressing those challenges. Allocation of budgets to achieve gender priorities and expenditure review against the gender outcome. So the framework implementation is therefore linked to institutionalization of gender mainstreaming across the state, meaning that we need to have each and every institution within the state that really understand what gender mainstreaming is, every one of them. Whether you are a state-owned enterprise or whatever, you need to institutionalize the gender mainstreaming. Broader political and socio-economic transformation, and then outcome and results-based approach. We really want to do things because this is exactly what we want to see happen, and that will impact on the life of women. Government-wide policy planning and prioritization, broader public finance and budget reform. Now, the framework has 10 pillars of implementation. And also what I need to mention is that the framework has been adopted in 2019 before the new government. Now, what has happened is that in the implementation, we have mainstreamed youth and persons with disability in the framework, although there are processes within the department that are taking place to ensure that in some other plan, although we understand the uniqueness of the issue of women, we need to mainstream youth and persons with disability. So the framework has got 10 pillars of implementation. And these are the 10 pillars that are listed here. And then I will further go into details, talking into the progress that has been made in the implementation on those pillars. We have got gender responsive country planning and monitoring. That speaks to what, as the country, needs to be influenced in the implementation to ensure the institutionalization of the framework. Gender responsive institutional planning that is within each and every institution. Gender responsive policy priorities, that would be the priorities that needs to be focused on. Gender responsive evaluation, knowledge and evidence. Now, when you conduct evaluations that has always been taking place in the country, how do we ensure that this evaluation are responsive? That's what I'm going to talk about. Gender responsive monitoring and auditing, gender responsive budgeting, other related system, cabinet and parliament system, gender responsive legislation, performance management, communication, advocacy, and training. So in short, I'm going to look at all these pillars and give feedback on what progress has been made so far in the implementation of the framework. Now, with regard to gender responsive country planning and monitoring, the key area is we have noted that the electoral mandate include gender priorities. Now, in the implementation that takes place, it's about ensuring the inclusion of these priorities down the system to ensure that they finally get implemented. The NDP review include a chapter on WIGI, and then to ensure that the future implementation or continuously the NDP implementation include the issues of women, youth, and persons with disability. During the development of the framework, the 2019-2024 MTSF was being developed. So as the framework was being developed, it was at the same time being implemented. So during that process, the department was able to ensure that there's explicit gender priorities, deliverable indicators, and impact that cut across the 7 priorities of government. And we are very sure that the MTSF is very responsive to women, youth, and persons with disabilities. So in that regard, these are the priorities that are targeted towards ensuring that we achieve them with the implementation of this responsive MTSF 2019-2024. We need to have a gender, youth, and disability responsive public service. We need to have transformed representation and inclusive economy, which prioritize women, youth, and persons with disability. All women, girls, youth, and persons with disability needs to enjoy good quality of health care and better life opportunity. We need to ensure that there's human dignity for persons with severe disability, women and girls, achieved through freedom of choice and decent living condition. We need to have a transformed ownership and management pattern by supporting women-owned and led enterprises. We also need to ensure that all women, girls, youth, and persons with disability are and feel safe and a better life and have better life. And we need to have a better Africa and the world for all women and girls. So this is what the whole issue is targeted to in the implementation. Furthermore, another area of progress that I need to report about is that we have developed the the country gender indicator framework. This framework has got indicators that cuts across the MTSF, instruments that South Africa has ratified, call it Beijing Platform for Action, call it the CEDAW, the Protocol on Women in Africa, any other instruments. And furthermore, these indicators have been classified according to the priorities of our government, so that when we look at priority 1, for example, we must be able to have indicators that also benefit what is expected in the implementation of Beijing, of CEDAW, or any other instrument. And these indicators are shared with a government to ensure that when they put on their plans, they need to consider them. A commitment to ensure that the mandate paper, the budget prioritization is gender responsive, that is achieved. Then we have developed the report, the 25-year review on women's empowerment and gender equality, which was approved by government. This is the report that we recommend to government to say, when you do your situational analysis, look at the findings that are in this report, identify the challenges that falls within your mandate, and ensure that you prioritize on implementing towards closing the gap that has been identified. For example, if you are Department of Public Works and you have, you need to use the report for situational analysis and pick up that engineers are not sufficient. Women engineers are not sufficient. You use that gap and identify mechanism in which you are going to bring in skilled capacity with regard to women. Chapter on WG in government 25-year review. So it's important that in each review, there is a chapter that speaks to women. The SONA 2020 and 2021 has significant WG content, including economic inclusion, gender in the context of the AU chair, and access to land. And if you remember, the DM has already spoken about that in the SONA, the issue of 40% targeted procurement to women-owned enterprise has been pronounced. Development of gender mainstreaming implementation guidelines, because we wanted people to be able to ensure how do we implement this framework. Now we are at the moment still also working with the Caucus to ensure that the DDM is responsive to women, youth, and persons with disabilities. With regard to pillar number 2, that speaks to gender responsive institutional planning, we have developed the guidelines on assessment of the draft strategic plan and the APP, including the annexure that assesses the responsiveness to women, youth, and persons with disability. Because this role it's played by the DPME, it was very important for us to ensure that the content that I am speaking to that are within the guideline that is done by the DPME, so that simultaneously it is communicated with government, the entire government, and be responsive in it with regard to their strategic plan. This assessment also guideline also serve as a self-assessment tool. After they have developed their strategic plan, they will be able to look into whether the plan is responsive to women, youth, and persons with disability by going through that assessment guide. So that has been very, very helpful, and it has invited more the institution to come forward to say, Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disability, help us able to implement this. Analysis of gender, youth, and disability responsiveness of selected strategic plan was conducted, and a feedback was provided. When we do the analysis, remember it is done together with the DPME. Now, when we do that, we sit in the same session with the DPME and give feedback to departments that has been analyzed in how to improve the final document. Because with the draft, we did the analysis of the strategic plan, and we gave feedback, but we also did the draft that will inform the final APP. So in other words, after that analysis of the draft and the session that we had, then departments are able to improve on the final draft of the APP. Gender responsive policy priorities. This talks about policy priorities which are presented to the portfolio committees on the 9th of October that are being gender responsive. Some of the priorities, I spoke to them previously. And then the development of proposed gender policy priorities for 2019 to 2024 and 2030 from multiple sources include stakeholder dialogue and international frameworks. With regard to gender responsive evaluation, knowledge, and evidence, the department provided input into the gender responsive national evaluation policy, which ensures that the inclusion of integration of gender perspective across evaluation system. Now, because the DPME was responsible for this framework, we had put our effort to ensure that the results that comes in make sure that government is responsive in its national evaluation plan, that the government should have targeted gender responsive evaluation, that the gender responsive evaluation has guidelines that will ensure that they are responsive in the final evaluation. A rapid evaluation was conducted on the framework in 2020 by the department. Now we are busy with a formative evaluation on the framework that is for this academic or for this financial year to look into how far is the framework able to measure what we want to see implemented. How far is the framework that we are implementing reaching out to exactly what is meant to. We also have developed, there's a gender knowledge hub with a view to be a central repository for gender, youth and disability, as alluded by the DM. With regard to monitoring and auditing, the department has engaged with DPME on possible collaboration to strengthen the gender responsive monitoring system so that we are able to load into this system all information that is required to measure what progress has been made towards women empowerment and gender equality. I spoke to the country gender indicator framework and the annual, with regard to the annual performance monitoring report, this is the report that the department conducts annually in order to assess the actual impact of the implementation of the framework into the lives of women, youth, and persons with disability. Unlike the other report that we are developing, that is the progress report on the implementation of the framework, which speaks about looking at the implementers on how far they are. The annual performance report is going to do more because it is going to look into key areas that are being implemented in line with the indicators. When this report is developed, it does not go out from the indicators that has been developed in the MTSF and also the indicators that were put together from the country gender indicator framework. With regard to internal, within the auditing system, the department has initiated a request to engage with the Auditor General to ensure that there's responsive auditing system within the country. For example, when the Auditor General looks at the performance of government, they must be able, or any other institution, they must be able to audit the impact of what has been delivered on the lives of women, meaning that the report that is being generated should be able to generate disaggregated information that will be able to tell us on how far women, youth, and persons with disability has benefited. Gender responsive budgeting, I think the DM and the DG spoke about the what is happening between us and the National Treasury. This MTF 2021, which has got a budget tagging for youth, gender, youth, and persons with disability. It's a win. And then with the future communication that is going on with the National Treasury, we are planning to ensure that the National Treasury give guidance where there is failure to understand on how to mainstream women, youth, and persons with disability into the budget. But this budget tagging play a very critical role in ensuring that we are making a great progress towards the gender responsive budgeting. And then it will also look into the issue of this 40% spending that is targeted into women. With the selected department are supposed to provide expenditure data in the MTSF budget processes on women's economic inclusion, gender eradication of gender-based violence and femicide, and social transformation. So the gender targeting focuses on these three areas that has got a very serious impact into the lives of women. Gauteng province has started piloting the gender responsive budgeting, and the manner in which they are implementing, we are using them as kind of a best practice that needs to be shared with other provinces and the department. And in this regard, the province has been invited to several meetings to take through the government into how they have gone to so far. And then the issue of conducting training on gender budgeting is also underway. What also needs to be reported here is that the National Treasury has a number of officials that have been trained on gender responsive budgeting by the IMF. And you find that in our meeting when we engage, they far more understand what is expected to be done. And they are very much willing to ensure that that capacity is taken forward to all other members of this team. With regard to other related systems, including cabinet, the department has presented to the policy priorities as I've indicated, and the rapid evaluation. And then what also I need to emphasize maybe here is the aspiration that we have to see Parliament also assisting in its power on the implementation of the framework by, for example, calling in any department to say, tell us on how your plan is responsive to women, youth, and persons with disability. That will assist. That is how maybe thinking about learning from other countries on what they have done as Parliament to enforce, to really try to make sure that everyone is responsive in their plan to women, youth, and persons with disability. So that is what the framework itself is looking forward to see. And then if that could be possible, it will be appreciated. With regard to international obligations, the department also, it's the indicators, as I've said, it's in the country gender framework has been incorporated in order to ensure that they are implemented across government, and the department continue to develop reports according to the schedule. With regard to legislation, this is the key legislation that everybody is awaiting for, the women empowerment and gender equality that we really want to see going forward, so that everyone is, it enforces everyone to implement the issues of women empowerment and gender equality. Performance management, a commitment by the DPME to include the gender-specific indicator in the heads of department assessment framework, and to include the women, youth, and persons with disability during the moderation of the quarterly performance. So this is what we have been communicating with the DPME to ensure that we are part of that, so that we also see and that women are included in the performance agreement and even in the assessment. Commitment by the DPSA to review the PDMS system to ensure a greater accountability for gender performance at all levels. We are also working with them, and this is what we got. The President's commitment to include gender-specific deliverable in the performance agreement of the ministers. If I can go further here, the department has done the analysis of the ministers' performance agreement. What was identified is that clearly of the 27 ministers, I think about 25 of them are very clear in the issue of gender inclusion of gender, the implementation of the framework. They include the implementation of the framework in their agreement. Also, they include the implementation of National Strategic Plan on and gender-based violence and femicide. That is very great. And then when we do the analysis of this APPs and the strategic of the department, we also include that, and we also emphasize the fact that in the departments that are not responsive to say, your minister's performance agreement speaks to this, you need to include that in your plan. That is still talking to that. With regard to communication, advocacy, and training, the department is working with National School of Government, the accredited manual that the DM spoke about, continue to train people on gender responsive, gender mainstreaming. And then now we also have a gender responsive budgeting manual, also a module that has been accredited that has been implemented. Regardless of COVID, from August last year, there were virtual training sessions that took place. In the virtual sessions, they were able to even have a breakaway session. So the training was not compromised because of the issue of virtual. So that took place, and we had about 216 officials that have been trained. What is satisfying is that in the 216, some of them include senior officials. That is important for the program. A number of departments invited us to provide capacity building in their strategic planning session. This included the Department of Health, where they brought in all the managers of their units, the public enterprise. The public enterprise even invited the department twice. The Department of Trade and Industry, the Human Settlement, and Tourism. I want to emphasize to say, when the department invite us twice, it is when the first invitation, they did not actually understand what the presentation will entail. But when they realize that it needs them to invite managers from different sectors of the department, they then invite us for the second time to give this capacity building. The department has set structures such as the high-level steering committee, the provincial workshop, which are hosted every month. And in those meetings, we take through the department, provinces, through the framework, through the guidelines, through how to implement, and so on and so on. And then from there, we also utilize that as a sharing, like in those that are doing very well. Like I spoke of Gauteng, I spoke of the Amatole district, who take the meeting through what they have done to reach the level at which they are. Individual departments also, they invite us into this meeting, as I've said. The provinces that have invited us include KwaZulu-Natal and the Northwest. And this one also did it twice, based on the fact that they realized that really we need to invite everybody else into the meeting. And then we also had a meeting with Gauteng National Treasury and also with Mpumalanga. In conclusion, I will say significant progress has been made on the implementation of the framework at various policy levels, which I really think it's good, because if the policies are responsive, then everybody who implements the policy or everybody who develops the policy will ensure that they are responsive. There are still serious gaps in institutionalization and at the local level. So in other words, we because of the capacity within the department, we find us not able to reach the local level ourselves. Although with working with the provinces, we believe that somehow we might be able to reach the level. But if that could happen, and from the brief that the DG has made, you could have noted the efforts that the department is putting in place to ensure that we reach out to everyone. The department should ensure that the strategic plan and the annual performance plan agenda youth and disability responsive in line with the assessment plan. So as I close, if the plan is responsive, all plans from the national to the local level, implementation will really be responsive. So in other words, we'll be able to reach out to all, everyone, and the targeted people, which are women, youth, and persons with disability, will really benefit. I thank you. I see I still have the sufficient body. I can speak to that. The DG has elaborated. I thank you so much. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much, Cecilia Langwani, for your presentation. Thank you to the DG and the DM. Honorable members, we had the briefing from the department, hoping that we do have something to say. This is now the time for discussion. I see the first hand of Honorable Mananiso, Honorable Sylvia, Honorable Lucas. The third one, Honorable Drunken. Let me take the first three hands. Thank you very much. You may start, Honorable Mananiso.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I would like to forward my apology in terms of my video because of my connectivity. Let me welcome the presentation, and one must say that I'm very happy about the tonnage of information with regards from the Deputy Minister and the department itself. It really shows that indeed when they say that for now, they can say that they're making progress in some other issues relating to lobbying and advocacy. And with what it's been said from the DM to the department, it really shows that at least now we can say that information it's getting there on gender responsive and gender mainstreaming. I would like to as well acknowledge the fact that now the department has decided to actually include Gauteng as part and parcel of their piloting, because I'm speaking from experience as a person who was actually in charge of gender mainstreaming in the municipality. you would find that the province is doing their part in terms of ensuring that they are capacitating their institutions in terms of uniformity and professionalism of gender mainstreaming and cost cutting. However, for the fact that when you get to local municipalities, you would find that they are just taking general workers for compliance to attend those particular trainings. So I just want to say to the department, as they will be rolling this to local municipalities, they must make sure that they become specific in terms of who's supposed to be attending those particular training. For instance, for me, it's actually important that you get all councillors being part and parcel of these particular trainings, because they are the ones who are ensuring that there's services in the municipalities, and get senior people who are appointed on specific authorities to actually being part, and each and every department to have a champion for gender responsive programs. Because if you don't have people per the department, you will forever run in circles in terms of what is it that you want to actually attain for issues of gender cost cutting. So lastly, it's on this issue that I think we have noted that it is there is political will in South Africa, and people must not can stand in terms of saying that the president doesn't have interest and so on. It's upon us as members of parliament to ensure that we make thorough and robust oversight. When the president could have announced that 40% must be procured for women, all of us who are deployed in specific areas, it is our responsibility to go and check with whoever in the municipality or in terms of who is actually implementing that particular pronouncement or announcement. So it's up to us as this collective in this multi-party caucus to be at the forefront in terms of ensuring that we take charge and we do our oversight accordingly and accountability to those who are actually employed to ensure that they implement. Chairperson, I'm very happy the issue of inclusion of private sector. And I think on this one, we must note that at times in retail stock, they are trying to showcase how mainstreaming it is done on issues of people with disability, LGBTIQA plus society, and as well as women. So we need to copy from them. For instance, you have a society of people with albinism, but you get to any municipality, you can't even find one. So it really shows that we still have so many things to do in terms of lobbying and advocacy, and as well trying to teach people what is it that we speak of when we speak about institutionalizing a gender responsive mechanism and other things. So I just want to say to say to the department, please, we must not be found wanting as public sector than private sector. Private sector, they are doing it, employ people with disability, but with us, other municipalities, they don't even have specific people with certain disabilities. So I want to thank and applaud the department that really, they are not making favor by choosing Gauteng. Where, just for example, I've just seen the advert for Department of Sports with regards to the program that they are doing for arts and culture. On their advert, they are so specific. They want that target is people with LGBT, the society of LGBTIQA plus society. So these are the small things that people must start looking at as things that shows that at least that we are getting there. People must be able to gauge that it's not that whatever that politicians are speaking about is just to speak for the sake of election and so on. So I really appreciate this particular platform today, and actually it was so informative that one, as a gender activist, I'm very happy that as South Africa we are better than yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mananiso. I'll now give this opportunity to Honorable Lucas.
Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning to the members of the caucus.
Good morning.
Chairperson, let me appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I'm sorry about the issue of but I think it doesn't matter. I was wearing ANC regalia, but it is a multi-party women's caucus for the funeral of Mpho. And so let me. So I was not going to keep on my video. I just put it on to apologize. Thank you very much. Chairperson, let me start by appreciating and acknowledging all the effort and the focus that are coming from particularly from the DM and from the DP, because we have really observed that there is a lot of progress in the past how many months that we started to give specific focus, particularly to issues of gender-based violence and of gender responsive budgeting, and also of to address the gender gap, particularly in the workplace. I am really very much, I'm not easily impressed, but I'm impressed with the fact that we are making the kind of progress that we are making, particularly with regards to the issue of gender responsive budgeting. Honorable Mananiso covered me with regards to the issue of local government, because in our review Finance and Fiscal Commission, some few proposals for pilots where we can actually begin to pilot gender responsive budgeting. But I also want to commend the department more for the fact that now there is that kind of accredited training that we can give to particularly to officials and implementers that is supposed to implement the whole issue of gender responsive programs and budgets. But I would really want to emphasize that we need to take along the local sphere of government, because it is also the sphere that is not faring very well with regards to making sure that there is qualitative equality, particularly with regards to the appointment of what we are terming the vulnerable groups. Sometimes we are faring better at the provincial and at the national level, but not necessarily at the level of the local government. So I think I would also want to recommend that us as the caucus, as well as the department, should work more with SALGA to make sure that there is implementation of whatever program we are proposing at the local level. I also further want to commend the department with the progress that is made with regards to the legislation of the National Council on GBV. I know it is not necessarily mentioned here, but it is a major achievement, and I hope Parliament will be able to assist the department or the ministry, the Women's Ministry, to be able to implement that specific or to fast track that specific legislation, so that at a certain level, and very soon, we will see that the kind of real progress that have been made. And Chairperson, that is some of the issues that I wanted to comment on, but I'm particularly serious with regards. I heard that they say the presence of the ministry or the department at a provincial level is not yet up to scratch. As a member, or particularly as a deputy chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, I really want us to make sure that we put more effort in making sure that the presence are felt at the provincial level, but more particularly at the level of local government. But I think, and I want to propose once more, that the district development model, as it is being implemented, let us make sure, because it's actually presenting us with an opportunity, since it is still at a very initial phase of implementation. It's actually presenting us with an opportunity to use the structures or the organically to use it to make sure that it is gender focused. And if I speak about gender focus, I'm speaking about inclusivity, to make sure that the different policies that we are speaking about, that it's inclusive. I think it is very important. I would really, and really, Chairperson, we must be very honest that the Deputy Minister is giving us really hope in terms of the fact that she's very, very committed wherever we are, in whatever issues we are doing, particularly with some of the issues that is still so much outstanding, like the issues of customary law, like the issues of land, but almost all of the different issues that where women particularly is still so excluded, that we must make sure that if we speak about gender responsiveness, we make sure it is across the spectrum. But I also want to commend them that they are focused, because if you are all over the place and there is nothing that you are focused on, it might be that very important things will fall through the cracks. So I want to encourage also the ministry to make sure that the way they are working now, that eventually with all of our commitment, we will be coming to a point where we will say at least if we assess we have traversed from 0% to 50% to 60% to wherever, but we have been able to achieve in whatever we are envisaging. I don't want to speak long. I'm one of the people that doesn't want to speak long. So whatever I want to say, I will discuss at other platforms where I get an opportunity. Thank you very much, my Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Lucas. Honorable Drinken, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairperson. And thank you so much to the department. Greetings to everybody, to honorable members and department officials. I noticed that in the presentation, there is mention of the local government sphere. But I would like to ask this particular questions. The department mentioned that they've provinces who come for presentations, or so if it's 4 people per province who come for those trainings, how does that information filter down to everybody else, particularly in the local level, so that they get that capacitation as well? And then Gauteng is one of the pilots, and congratulations to them. I would like to know how long is the pilot going to continue, and until it's then applied to the other provinces. Those are my 2 questions. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mutambi. Tati.
I absent that. Now, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chairperson. I think we should both, following the other colleagues that have stated earlier, commend the DM and the team and the department on the good work that they are doing. It brings a breath of some fresh hope. I'm waiting for the Deputy Chair of the NCOP to mute her microphone, but let me proceed. I was still saying that it brings some a breath of some fresh hope, in the sense that I'm excited that as reported, most of the departments have now started to take this matter serious. But what's concerning, given the commitments, including by both the president, those 2 departments that has not taken this matter seriously, can we also then be told which ones are those? If some of us as women MPs are sitting in those portfolio committees that is got responsibility for those departments, then we can be able to follow up. The other issue, yes, we can all have this nice strategic plan, but my interest is on the funding aspects of it. because our experience, like what Comrade Mananiso said earlier, you find that these matters are treated as a by the way matter. We are very excited by the fact that this matters now has been put into the performance agreement of each and every minister. I think ourselves as members of parliament, women members of parliament in particular, because as one says, we are the representatives of all these women on the ground. Now that we'll be moving towards the BRRR processes, also considering the annual reports of departments. Can we make sure that when we do that as part of our oversight, these matters of the NSP, we must make sure that we advocate that, we make sure that to all these departments to which that we do oversight on, it's a non-negotiable. We need to start to see accountability on the part of the departments. In doing so, then we'll go a long way to make sure that these matters are not by the way matters, as they are always presumed. And then the other critical aspect that I think the DM will take along with the colleagues, because as the Stati Langweni was concluding, she's saying that because they are a national department, but we know with the district development model, as the deputy chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Lucas has said, we have a very nice tool called the district development model. If then maybe through you, Deputy Minister, we can then start to make sure that part of those district development initiative, we put these matters of the NSP, I think we'll go a long way, because that's where we'll be able then to also ensure that municipalities also comply with this critical program that is dealing with the issues that affect our women on a daily basis. Because the reality is that, we like it or not, the issue of gender-based violence is very rife in our communities. And then I should propose also, Chairperson, next time when we meet again, can we then also be briefed? Remember, there was a gender-based violence fund that was launched. Can we then be given a progress report so that we can see if there's something tangible in line with that funding that is also then, so that if part of our oversight is we'll be going to recess, we check the effect of the implementation of all these projects as identified to be funded by that fund. But what is critical, what is very critical is the funding aspect. I want to get assurance from the Deputy Minister where that treasury actually come on board to fund the strategy. Because we can have this strategy, if not funded, will come time and again sit here and let it become a talk shop, whereas, and we'll be failing on our public representative mandate, because we need the NSP to be funded. Can we be told, because you are also saying that for 2021 to 2022 financial year, there will be a bill that we are going to pass in Parliament. Has it been costed? Because before you pass a bill, you must cost it, including its implementation. I want to know what is Treasury attitude towards that, because unless we elevate this matter with proper resourcing, we'll keep on talking and talking, Chairperson, and at the end of the day, nothing is gonna happen without the requisite resources. Thank you so much, Chair, for the opportunity.
Ndolibuwa Makadzi, Mkomano wanga. Now we'll call upon Honorable Matebula Brenda. Wanamani.
Na khensa sesi kunikuwa nkarhi na mina ku vulavula swintsongo leswi ni nga na swona. Chairperson, I think the issue of 50% women representation in all spheres, it will assist us in the economic benefit, especially in a political participation and managerial and leadership responsibility. It must not be negotiated, it must be compulsory. We must find a way to make it compulsory. The second one is the issue of departments. I just wanted to check if among those departments who they've engaged, if it really includes the agricultural sector. I'm saying this because according to the research that I got, agricultural sector has an overwhelming number of white men, especially in a top managerial level. So I just wanted to check whether they also engage the agricultural sector on this matter. And then the other issue that I wanted to raise is the issue of land, which the deputy chairperson of the House has touched on, the issue of distribution of land, especially in rural area. I think we as a government must find a way to train or engage our traditional leaders, because I'm specifically as a woman who coming from a rural area, I'm not happy in the way our traditional leaders are distributing land. I'm going to give you a practical example where if they want to distribute land, the overwhelming majority on that distribution of land, it will be men. As a woman, when you go there and ask that, can you please give me a piece of land, for example, for a residential purpose, the first question that you will be asked is whether you are married. So I wanted us as government to engage with our traditional leaders to understand that as a woman, I don't have to be married to get a piece of land. So as a government, if we can also include and engage our traditional leaders on this issue, I think I will be happy. Thank you, Chair.
Ni khensa swinene tati xibeleti ndleveni no pfumela ku department yi ta pfumela ku yi burisana na vona. I will now call upon Honorable Noma Kosazana. I think this is the last person to engage on the briefing or the discussion. Honorable Noma Kosazana. Honorable Noma Kosazana, are you still there? I saw your hand. I don't know whether you still want to engage or not. If not, now I will call upon the department, the Deputy Minister, the DG, and the Tati to engage or to answer the questions that has been raised by honorable members, and also the input that they brought forth to us. Thank you very much. Honorable GM, over to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I will try to be quick so as to allow the Director General and the team to respond. But on my side, Honorable Chair, I just want to express my appreciation to start with. You know, it's always so good when you meet with the committee and they raise questions which give you, what do they say? But something to take home with. What course? I hope I've got it right. Umpago of some kind. So we really appreciate that. We'll go back to the drawing board and we will look at all the comments that honorable members have made. But I just wanted to, I picked up that from Honorable Manamiso, Honorable Lucas, and I think and other honorable members, there was this emphasis on the importance of the local sphere of government. You know, the president, in his wisdom, influenced the thinking towards the district development model. And he went on to appoint ministers and deputy ministers to different regions throughout the country to be the champions of the district development model, which I think is coming together. As honorable members are emphasizing that sphere, there's already a vision from the highest office. You know, he personally launched the district development model together with the Minister of Culture, starting with the Eastern Cape or Tambo, and then they went on to KwaZulu-Natal and many other areas. I think we note the emphasis that where we want to monitor the budget, whether it's inclusive of women, youth, and persons with disability, then we already have an instrument. So I appreciate what honorable members are saying. We will look at whether we have tightened, even for champions, ministers and deputy ministers, that as they go to those districts, are they actually monitoring how the budgets are going, and have a way of reporting on that, as honorable members were saying, so that where there are challenges, honorable members, they had different committees where all of us will report. We could be held accountable at all levels, not only the president's office, but other levels as well. I think Honorable Mutambi brought this issue of funding, the resourcing of the programs we are talking about. I think the DG has been, since she took over to head the administration of the department, she has been paying particular attention on funding aspects. Hence, whenever she presents before our committee or before us, Minister Maite Nkwane Mashabane and myself, she keeps on raising this issue of funding. And we will pick up the resourcing aspects of everything we talk about, whether it's monitoring tools, reporting tools, and the general capacity of the building, of the department to realize its objectives. We will definitely be looking at that, and we will need to be guided as to, we'll have to think through as to how do we monitor the budgeting processes, especially the BERRR, to make sure that it's in line with what we are raising today, to say we have the biggest budget, which is the public purse. We want to see outcomes and actually changing the change of the quality of life in the immediate future, in our lifetime, rather than just talking about it for a long period of time. The DG will assist, especially with the question as to whether we've costed the gender council, the council on gender-based violence and femicide, so that as we go through processes, getting the right legislation, we know what we are talking about. And it's not just a council, but it's a well-resourced council. So the DG will help us to respond to those questions Thank you, honorable members. I just wanted to flag a few issues for the DG and the team. Thank you very much, honorable chairperson. But also I like the emphasis that we shouldn't be looking at the so-called soft issues. We should be looking also, I think it was Honorable Lucas, big current issues like land question, mining, infrastructure, where the priority projects, where the country is talking billions to trillions. That's where we should be raising questions. Where are women? Where are our youth? Where are persons with disabilities? So I think we have the good frameworks, and now is the time to raise the right questions and report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DM. We really appreciate your commitment in this regard. The DG, mina swin'wana swa ku swi vula.
Yes, I have a lot, Chair. Nina swo tala swa ku swi vula. Nina tona tinhlamulo. Inkomu. Mfambisi wa xitulu. Inkomu, Deputy Minister, and all the chairs, sorry, all the members. I think I would like to start with the first question. I think it was from Honorable Mananiso, who said, who attends the particular training? And so I think as it was said even earlier on that you find that sometimes it's just officials who don't even sit in the budget processes or who don't even sit in the strategy. And what we've done, as when I opened, I indicated that we are now involving National Treasury to take the issue of gender responsive budgeting, to take the responsibility for that, because it is their responsibility. When people plan what they're going to implement and the budgeting and the expenditure, it is National Treasury that assesses that. And it is National Treasury that decides the following year whether to give you more funding or not to give you more funding because of the commitments that you've made and you have not achieved. So I'd just like to give an example with a sanitary dignity program. The department requested for funding for the procurement of the sanitary dignity. However, National Treasury then decided that the money should go directly to the provinces. So the money goes directly. I think they pay something, they get in total 240 something million. Some of the provinces, if they don't spend it, National Treasury reduces the funding to them. So they have a carrot and a stick. So even with the training on gender responsive budgeting, when National Treasury calls people to come to training, senior managers attend. So that's the strategy. Like National Treasury is our strategy to ensure that we achieve the implementation of the gender responsive planning, budgeting, monitoring, and evaluation process in local government, in provincial, but also even in national, at the national level. So that will ensure that the senior managers are attending. But also, as I indicated when I started, that we're involving even the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and we have requested funding from the EU also. That will assist, because when you have the involvement of the IMF, even DGs themselves, I think they will attend the training. So if you have people who are trained at that level, at very senior level, then the process will be implemented. Honorable Lucas asked or referred to the issue of gender disparity in terms of employment, in terms of salaries. That is one of the biggest challenges that we have in South Africa. And even though in government, our salaries, when it's advertised, when they advertise a director is level 13, but you find out the negotiation when now the salary is paid, the level 13 has got different, what do they call them, notches in between. There's notch 1 to notch 7 or whatever. You find that somebody is at level 13, but they're paid at level 14. So as a department, as I indicated when we started, that because of us being structured to fail and resourced to fail, sometimes we're not able to do things full scale. So we've decided as a department, we're partnering with the Department of Public Enterprise. We have chosen, we requested UN Women to appoint an economist for us. So we are monitoring. We've chosen 100 top 100 JSC listed companies and state-owned enterprises. We're monitoring them now in order to look at their mainstreaming of women in their employment and in their procurement, to look at women, youth, and persons with disabilities, whether they are mainstreamed. And we're hoping that we'll be able to launch that report in December, during August month. And as on the part of the department, we are procuring a service provider who would now investigate within government the levels, the disparities in terms of payment between women and men, so that we can be able to look at, and we know that the report won't say pay them equally, but now it will determine, or it will assist us to develop the regulatory framework that says in appointment, this is how you treat women and men. If you've appointed them in the same position, they must earn a same salary going forward. And also, Honorable Lucas spoke to the issue of customary law and land, and I know the Deputy Minister also spoke about that. Just to show the members that when I report, I don't report on something that doesn't exist. I just want to show you. I hope members will be able to see this and read on it.
We can't see, DG. We can't see. Take it to the middle.
To the left,
So,
to the left.
To the left. Oh, yeah. Can you see that?
Just there.
Yes,
Thank you. Sorry, Chair.
Yes.
It has even programs. We have programs in terms of what is it that we want to achieve. So this is a plan of action with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. As a department, we entered into an MOU last year, because as a department also we have an interest in ensuring that women benefit even before the 900, I think that was the 990 or 1,000 hectares that they had. Before they even were looking into distributing that, we entered into an MOU quickly with them. We were saying, if we lose this opportunity, women are not going to benefit. We even came up with a criteria that would determine how they ensure that women benefit from that land. And what we agreed was 50% women, 40% youth, and 10% persons with disabilities that would benefit from that land. So we're already working with them. We didn't end up with an MOU. We have a plan of action as indicated. It has different areas that we're agreeing on in terms of distribution of land, in terms of post-settlement support, rural enterprise, cooperative and support. This comes to what you were asking. I think it's Manana Brenda Matebula who said women are not involved in agriculture. So those are, and skills development, we even agreed with skills development and market access. So there are different things that we've agreed upon where we want them to report to us in terms of how they are going to achieve that. Honorable Velma Nieuwhout also was saying, how does the information filter when 4 people are implementing? And also in terms of in Gauteng, as indicated earlier on that, you know, South Africans, even when there's legislation, I'd like to make an example. I know that the issue of women empowerment and gender equality always comes up. The challenge of legislation is that, especially for private sector, they will not comply. They would rather pay a fine in court. They would rather go and pay. With the Employment Equity Act, the commission, I was in the commission, but still we're working with the commission even now. We have meetings with them. There are projects that we want to monitor together. They will tell you that private sector would rather pay a fine rather than comply with what the Act wants. So that is the challenge that we need. So I don't know. I think it requires something bigger than just a fine that we have to deal with. So with the filtering down of the training, when National Treasury is involved and we have together developed the indicators that National Treasury would want to see, people know that they're not going to get a budget. So people will comply. So that's the mechanism that we're trying to enforce in government, so that government can comply. And then with the private sector, it will be addressed with a policy. However, as I said, that sometimes they would rather not comply and pay the fine. Honorable Mutambi, on gender-based violence, gender-based violence and femicide private sector fund. The fund that was raised during the breakfast with the president was 218 million. Even I think I have a meeting. The chairperson of the fund requested a meeting with us because when it was raised, they were saying to fund civil society organization. However, I'm not sure now what is the challenge with that. I think they realized that civil society organizations are already funded by social development, and social development is funding them a lot, is giving them a lot of money they don't even account. So with the fund, they wanted to meet with us. One of the things, as they were talking to me generally, besides the meeting that they've asked for now, when they asked me where do I think they could invest the money, but at the end of the day, because it's a private fund and they are a private trust, they can decide, but they still want to hear from us. I said to them, I think one area where we need assistance as government is on the issue of forensic evidence. So we need the forensic labs. And we've heard that to build one lab, it takes 300 million. If they can then meet with a SAPS, we can facilitate the meeting as a department so that they say, we're giving you this much, we're giving you 200 million, the 18 million will distribute to civil society, but we want to invest 200 million so that we start building a forensic lab, and SAPS will add the money. That would really make a difference, because if we are told that there are thousands and thousands of cases that are awaiting forensic evidence, as a country we're playing, even if we come with the council, because the council is not going to end gender-based violence. The council is going to coordinate implementation between government, labor, civil society organization, and the private sector. That's what the bill will do. However, if government puts frameworks and resources to ensure that rape cases and gender-based violence cases generally are fast-tracked, then we will be able to address gender-based violence. Yes, the National Council on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide draft bill is costed by default. Why do I say by default? The National Strategic Plan has been costed, because what is in the bill is what is in the NSP. So when we took the bill to the CS process in the presidency, they gave us an exception that the National Strategic Plan has been costed, and the socioeconomic impact assessment was done. All those things that were supposed to be done are done. So it is costed. I don't know if I've left out anything, but distribution of land, I've already spoken to that we even have an MOU with a Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development to ensure that women benefit, to ensure also that they develop women. And one other program that I would like to share with the committee is we are in partnership with Gauteng Province on local economy. And in that program, it's our department, is the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. We've brought in Department of Small Business, we've brought in DTI, we've brought in the Competition Commission, and in Gauteng is the Premier's Office and the Economic Development and Social Development. So it's all these departments. We were looking at the bakery. A bakery is $1 billion industry in South Africa. And who are the people who buy bread? It's Black people. Even the most poor in townships, they buy bread at least. So we're saying women, youth, and persons with disabilities must benefit from that. So we requested, I had a meeting with DG, and now the DG in the presidency, but then she was DG in Gauteng. I met with her and said, can we assist women in townships to open bakeries, but also come up with a strategy to ensure that your checkers that are in the townships don't undercut them, but they buy from them. The project is up and running in terms of preparation. Gauteng Province even said we have money for that. So what I said to them was, yes, I understand you have money and I know that you have money, but I want to come up with a different strategy so that we go to a community and say, women, we mobilize women. Even if women can pay 1,000 rand to this fund, that will be a seed fund. Then also you know that if there's 1,000 women, It's not a challenge. Somebody would say there are many, whatever. They will come up, we'll teach them in terms of how to in governance processes, so that they understand governance processes, and that they're investing, so that they own that bakery. Even the community owns it and they contribute. So they have that responsibility to ensure that we grow together. All of us own it. We also work with the checkers or whatever, but also the bakeries that distribute in that place. We ensure that they also buy from these bakeries of women. So we're coming up with such a strategy. I think now when I present it, it might seem like it's not clear, but we are saying rural and local. But as a pilot, it's easier to pilot with Gauteng. If it works, then we'll be able to roll it out into all provinces, because bread is bought everywhere. And I know that someone will say already women have got bakeries and whatever. As we go to a community, we'll look at those bakeries that exist, so women can invest in that bakery, so that we grow it to a level where not only does it sell to the community, but the checkers or Pick and Pay that operate within that municipality, they buy from them, but also your big Albanian whatever also buy from them, so that the sustainability. So in agriculture, there's a lot, because also it's bigger than that, because we requested agriculture. That's why we brought them in. We said to them, we want you to look at the value chain of the bakery, because there's a planting of wheat, meals and whatever. There's the flour, the producing of the flour. So we want women to be involved in that value chain. So how do you assist us to be able to do that? So we brought competition commission, because we're saying to them, lest somebody says we are blocking competition. So how do we deal with that? So that is at the level where we are operating, because we want to see women benefiting. Thank you very much. I think I've responded to all the questions. Thank you, Chair. Ingo.
Tinga ha ri ku functioning. Leri xandla ehenhla ka xin'wana xandla. We now proceed. I don't know if Sesi Langwani would like to say something after the DG.
No, the DJ has said a mouthful. If I have to say anything, it's just to say thanks for the opportunity, engagement that has really capacitated us so much. Thank you.
No, thank you very much.
So Chair, if you may allow me, my apology for coming back is the DG.
Okay.
I may not get the opportunity to say this again. So that's why I thought, let me interrupt you and ask you. I think one thing that we would like to request the members of the committees that are here, because they sit in other committees, is to request them that sometimes when they have portfolio committees on these economic cluster departments, on infrastructure or energy or whatever, we request them to invite us, because we can be able to present after they've presented and say there are no women or whatever. We can be able to present that there was this opportunity. We know that they didn't bring women. For example, in housing now, there was this HBA a tender that was taking place. Women were not involved, and there are women. So also issues of, if we are saying women are not involved, did you advertise? Did you specifically go out there? There are things that they need to do in order for them to be able to ensure that women participate. But the second one also, the DDMs. The DDMs, I wanted to say, if there are meetings or committees where you want us to present, we can present on the GRPBM and the NSP, but also, as indicated earlier on, that we're already meeting with with Caucus, so that we integrate this. We were invited, we were told that there are 9 committees in each province, like each province has 1 committee on the DDM. So what they said to us, send your people to be represented. The challenge is that we don't have those people. The OSWs don't represent us. And as a department, we're very understaffed. The people who deal with the National Strategic Plan in that unit, I think there are 4 or 5 but at different level. So it makes it very difficult for us to be represented sometimes in different structures. Hence, I keep on coming back on the structure that was structured and resource to fail. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DG. And we really appreciate the special offering that you have given to us now. I believe that we are all coming from different portfolio committees to make this caucus, and we're really going to call the department to come and assist us or give us the briefing in order to do our oversight well. Thank you very much. Honorable members, is there something that we need also to be clarified by the department after getting whatever they've presented to us? Thanks.
Person.
Yebo, Honorable Mutambi.
There was a question that I raised of the two departments that are not complying. I mean, there were those, that question was not responded to. You are muted.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Mutambi. I still remember the question. DM or DG, can you assist with the two departments?
Thank you, Chair. Langwani will respond to that. Langwani.
Oh, thank you so much. I don't remember the names of departments as I speak to you, but what I want to explain is that the analysis that was indicating that the minister did not include the gender responsive planning, budgeting, and the national strategic plan in their plan, not the department as such. So because when we look at what is in the minister's plan, then we will enforce to the department if it's not indicated. I can't remember, but if the name actually, but if I remember, one of those departments have engaged with us in ensuring that they are responsive in their plan. So in that case, even if the minister's performance agreement was not specific to the framework and the national strategic plan, the department would have done something, but it gives us, that great mandate to say, do as the minister has done. I will check that and then we can give feedback later on. I don't want to call the names and find that I made the mistakes. Thank you.
Chair, before you come in, we have Dineo Marco here, who's the chief director responsible for this program. I will request Dineo. So I'll request Dineo to speak to the two departments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dineo, can you come in?
Dineo, you're muted.
Dineo.
My apologies, I've been speaking in my mute.
Can we see your face, please?
Oh, yes. I don't know if it's visible. Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning, honorable members. This is my face. I'm not sure if it's visible.
It's dark.
Okay.
It's dark. Put on the lights.
Yes, this is the oh, this is the best space I could get where there's connection. In terms of the departments that we've assessed, I'll definitely not do that in the next
just learn from the DG. Eh? You must ask the DG to teach you the tricks.
I'll definitely will do that. My apologies for my sitting position, my posture for the conversation. In terms of the question that has been asked, we've analyzed the 26 departments, and out of those, there were 6 where in terms of the issues that speaks to both the NSP and the gender responsive as well as the procurement, we had 6 departments, which was tourism, small business, agriculture, land reform and rural development, employment and labor, the Department of Women with Youth and Persons with Disability. Those were the ones that were really speaking to the highest, targeted project in terms of the implementation of women that are targeting women, youth, and persons with disability. Then the other 13 departments that also had shown inclusion of even the NSP, however, more targeted than less responsive, were the remaining 13% department, which was mineral resource and energy, employment and labor, cooperative governance and transitional affairs, basic education, water, and sanitation justice. And in terms of the 2 departments that are in question, it was largely the departments of what we call science and innovation. There were issues that were coming through, but were not really clear in terms of their overall target towards the implementation of women, youth, and persons with disability. And then the other department that was also identified was the Department of I think it's human settlement, where there are projects but are not fully responsive in terms of what is coming across. So in terms of the department that are in questions, those are the 2 departments, and likely it was on the projects that are to do with the water and sanitation. So those are the departments that when we did our analysis seems to have been less in terms of involving or being responsive to the priorities of women, youth, and persons with disabilities. Thank you. And actually, maybe as Ms. Langwane has indicated, it's not necessarily the department per se, but it's in terms of the overall assessment of the performance agreement of ministers. And that then cannot necessarily translate into the plans. So when we assess the plans, we look at the alignment between what the ministers has committed to vis-a-vis what the department is then committing to. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Any other questions, honorable members, before we release the department?
Chairperson?
Yes, honorable member?
Yes. I think that information needs to be shared with us. It's very critical for us to also assist the department in terms of oversight. And then I also want to appreciate this invitation by the DG to say, as portfolio committees, whenever we have meetings, we must feel free to invite them. I think it will go a long way to enforce matters of women, gender issues in particular. I think if we can all, as members of parliament, adopt that, it will take us a long way. And then this committee will be much busier now than it is. Thank you, Chairperson. You're muted.
Thank you, Honorable Mutambi. DM, the DG with your team, would like to thank you for honoring our invite and present your good selves in front of this caucus. We really appreciate the commitment and the effort that you are putting in making sure that the department is leading in this regard. Believe you me, we are in this together, because as member of parliament or lawmakers, it is our responsibility also to make sure that we do oversight. So thank you very much. Honorable members, I think now we have to thank you very much for your contribution and deliberations to the presentation that we received from the department. I would like to take this opportunity and release the department, then we proceed with the program as this caucus. Thank you very much. The department, you are free to leave Then we'll continue with the business of the day as this caucus. Thanks.
Inko.
Thank you, Nkomo.
Thank you.
Honorable members, we are proceeding with our meeting. Now it's 12 minutes past 12. The item that follows is the discussion on possible Women's Month activities for inclusion in third term program. Honorable Lucas.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I just have one request that we will possibly come up with a date for in August so that we must launch the report back on the Women's Charter review session so that we can, I think we will discuss it, we will bring it to the committee for discussion and so that we can make our inputs and then we can, but let us just for now request for a possible date for launching the reviewed Women's Charter or the report on the review of the Women's Charter.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lucas. Is there any other things that we want to talk about concerning Women's Month? I heard Honorable Lucas coming up with asking this caucus to come up with a possible date for the launch of the report back on Women's Charter review. Any other things to talk about? I don't see any hand. Maybe we can come up with a date for Honorable Lucas' proposal.
If there is no date,
Honorable Lucas,
Chairperson,
you have
we will
something
share.
in mind?
No, I was saying if there is no date, we will then proceed to send our program to the Secretariat of the caucus so that they check with, then they can consult further with the steering committee.
Oh, okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Honorable members, anything? Is there anything to discuss concerning this? We don't have anything to.
Can I?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Chair. It's flowing from what we had earlier, Chair. From the responses from I think it's a matter we need to take forward. This issue of the gender-based violence fund, especially like you had the DG saying, initially, though it's a private funding, it was meant for civil society. And indeed, this civil society, they're getting a lot of funding from social development. But you look at vis-a-vis the impact that they have in our communities. I should think we need to find a way, because all of them you find they're dealing with matters for women, children, youth, all those sort of things. But you don't actually feel their actual presence in our constituencies. Maybe I'll plead with you, Chair. You can then liaise with the Department of Social Department, so that maybe they can come and share with us, especially on this civil society funding, where in they are funding things that is got to do with gender, women, you name it. So that we start, because you see, they are not accountable to anyone and they do as they wish. At some point, they even run parallel programs, not in line with what they are supposed to do. And then I should think this committee is very critical and strategic to start to champion those issues, that we start to hold these people to account. Because now you can see also on this matter, I don't think nothing bars you from also engaging the Office of the President with this funding that is set now. You can see even though it's private funding, they seem not to be having where are they going to direct the funds. They wanted to duplicate it. Whereas there are so many issues in the constituencies that we can start to be dealing with, so that such resources are channeled towards contributing to the improvement of the lives of our women, young women, and all those vulnerable groups. If time permitting, Chair, also, you normally hear from the security cluster that there are Tutuzela centers. There are Tutuzela centers. And then that's where women, when they are being abused, normally some of them are in police stations. And then I've once done oversight in one. And what I found there, the conditions of those facilities, they are just there well and good on paper that they are there. But these are mostly some of these institutions that are more depressing to women, instead of them getting comfort going to those. And you know that these things are normally run as well by civil society. Our women will go there for comfort, but you find it's the opposite, what they experience there. So I should think maybe our research team here should look at that as well. Maybe one day we have a meeting where we'll assess this issue, the effectiveness of these centers, and then also maybe do the plotting. Because my understanding is that each and every police station where there's a local police station, there has to be that facility, so that we'll also be given a report, because though there are those in some areas where these things are not there. Women and children are terrorized on a regular basis. You know, it's happening in the villages, especially in the townships. So these are some of the things that I think they will then inform our program, so that we are proactive than being reactive. And then also, I should think you must call the ministers of social development, Caucus, and then we talk about this district development model. How will it improve the lives of women, young people? I mean, the constituency that we represent is this a multi-party women caucus. Those are the issues that let me flood them here. I'm sorry for dominating. Maybe I should have given you a call outside of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mutambi. Now, I think you did well to raise it here in this caucus. You assisted a lot of us, not only myself, and you were so relevant to the issues that you spoke to. I just believe and hoping that I'll ask the team, the researchers, to do its work in order Caucus and DSD as mentioned. And also that I think it's going to assist us while doing our oversight, in order to go out knowing very well what we're going to oversight. You raised also the issue of funds in the presidency. I'll ask the researchers. Exactly, the departments that are benefiting. You spoke about the civil society funding. I think this caucus also will be, this caucus also needs to know exactly and make those civil society to account as far as the funds that they are receiving concerning GBV. Because this thing, it's happening everywhere, it's happening every day. But when you, in our constituency, you will see that time and again they are reporting about this, but the funding that are put there to assist in making sure that we lessen or we get rid of this, we can't see, or people are not, the civil society are not accounting for that. So thank you very much. We'll make sure that we'll do follow up and we'll let this caucus to discuss about it going forward. Thank you very much. Any other member that needs to bring in something that is relevant for this caucus to talk about now? Oh, Honorable Dlulane.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you to the presentation by the department and the contributions from the comrades and the honorable members. I wanted to add on what Honorable Mutambe is just proposing. I'm proposing that the steering committee must again have in their program to propose. I'm proposing that they must have one-on-one with some sister departments, like we are talking about the GBV, and I'm suspecting that's a Department of Justice. You need to have one-on-one with them in order that we must get information. As you know that we are looking at the all evils that are happening in each and every department, but we cannot afford to call them at one time to come and present. But if the steering committee can have a program of prioritizing those departments, for instance, you know that there are sex workers and there are people who are looking at themselves. As you know that sometimes they do come to this committee of ours talking about the way that people who are doing that are being abused, and when they are going to report to police and they're not taking serious. In one other time, they were reporting in this forum saying that even the police themselves accused of wanting to do some work with them without paying them. So those things are, we need to have put in our program there, as Honorable Mutambe is saying that one other time a department did come and present to us about the increase identifying those Tutuzela centers that they were going to be built. So that information, it means that they must sometimes come to the steering committee, and if they can't come to us, the steering committee look at those who are ready to come and present to us as a committee. But I do appreciate the work that the department is doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sis Duty. The steering committee will do as you proposed. Is there any other? Oh, Deputy Minister, I see your hand.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I had just wanted to make a small contribution on this issue of this private fund. As it was said earlier, that within a day, we saw commitments of about 128 million. I'm happy if the committee is showing interest in the fund, because the original donors are powerful leaders in business, the financial sector, the banks, the mining sector, and so on. I think it might be good to have an opportunity to quickly, I don't know whether to start with the department, to see what for this committee to assist with priorities. The DG has been thinking of the gaps, saying maybe money should go to what's forensic labs, but we all know the biggest problem we have is that rural communities are not well resourced. From the police stations, the court, forensic labs, shelters, and all the things that are critical for successful prosecution of perpetrators. So maybe with the power, the voice of the committee, really, we could even invite the chair of the fund. They are independent people, business people. They had no interest. All they wanted to do was to support the president as he was calling out that gender-based violence is a societal issue. So for me, if we're to influence them, we really have to look at the rural communities, because even the NGOs that are funded by social development, most of them, they are strong on television in big cities. When you go to rural areas, you get a call and say, women are being killed. They are called witches. When you get there are no NGOs which are well-resourced like the ones in big cities. So I'll be happy if we can quickly have a way of influencing the thinking about this fund, so as to uplift efforts in preventing this social ill in rural communities, in areas like informal settlements, because there's definitely a gap there. Honorable members, you saw recently a Zensprate. Zensprate since 1994 has never had an infrastructure. Is the poorest of the poor informal settlements, worse than Diepsloot. But you know what happened there? It shows us that there are communities who are not reaching out to. As you go to a district, you find that many more communities where our people are not accessing any help. Thank you, Comrade Chair.
Thank you very much, DM, for sharing this information. Really, it is so painful after 27 years, if really we can still say there are communities, those that have never received any development or have seen any government coming to assist them. It's so painful. And thank you very much. I believe that the secretary will liaise with your office in order to be assisted for us to get hold of the chair of private funding to come and assist or to come and brief this committee as to what can we do in order to access the fund, in order for the communities or the relevant structures to access the fund to be used or at the local level or at the rural communities. Thank you very much, DM, for sharing that information. Is there any other thing, honorable members? If not, then it means we are coming to the end of our meeting. Is there something that I've left? Secretary, is there something?
No, Chair. Nothing from our side.
There's nothing. Okay. Now, thank you very much, honorable members. I think for us is to take care of ourselves. Coronavirus is real. We are living with it. It's killing our people. So we need to take care of ourselves and our loved ones. Thank you very much, honorable members, for attending this caucus. And thank you very much for our parliamentary staff, because without having you, we're not going to manage to run this meeting. Thank you very much, everyone. And the meeting adjourned.
Long live the chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank
Long
you.
live.
Chairperson.
Long live Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Long live.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Chair.
Bye.
Ilokenseni ya cancer.
Yeah. Na cancer. Inkomo.
So. Okay, Mama Katie.
Yes, my dear one.
Osasakile.
How is Waterberg?
It's fine, mother.
Okay, my love.
Sharp.
Sure.